Guys, Emily Henry has done it again. I cannot believe that after the 5-star review that I gave her last book, Book Lovers, her new one was coming out and I was like, oh, I hope that it's as good. But like, you know, when you had one of those reading experiences and you're like, no, whatever comes next cannot compare. Well, I am thrilled to announce that Happy Place, Emily Henry's new book, is just as amazing to me as Book Lovers, although for slightly different reasons. So if you haven't heard much about this book yet, Happy Place is a pseudo second chance, let's say. Sometimes in second chance books, the pair have spent like a significant time apart, and in this one they've only been broken up a few months, but that's part of the plot. So in this, we have a group of 6 friends who every year they go on this vacation to Maine. They met when they were undergraduates, some of them, and then others were kind of accumulated along the way. And there was a core group of 3 female friends, Sabrina, Cleo, and Harriet. And as they went through their lives, their undergraduate experiences, into grad school and then off to living their lives, they accumulated partners. So Harriet started dating Wynne, Sabrina started dating Parth, and Cleo started dating Kimberly. So these are all of your main players. This is important because by this point, they are all, really good friends who know so much about each other. But at this point, the different pairs of people are living in different places. And so Harriet and Wynne moved to San Francisco so that Harriet could work on her medical residency. Cleo and Kimberly own a farm, and they're off in the Midwest doing their own CSA type of thing. And Sabrina and Parth became lawyers, and they are like so high-powered, like New York City attorney situation. The pair we're focused on for this book are Harriet and Wynne. And Harriet and Wynne have been together the longest. They've been engaged the longest. And although they have not gotten married, they were the first member of this 6-person configuration to cross the line between like friends and lovers. And so it was like a really big deal for their friendship. There was a whole thing like, if you break up, you're gonna ruin everything. And they felt a lot of pressure because of that. Well, they are all showing up to this vacation in Maine, and there are some really big things happening in all of these people's lives, and they don't know, Cleo, Kimberly, Sabrina, and Parth don't know that 3 months ago, Harriet and Wynne broke up. They weren't able to tell their friends at the time, and now they have walked into this situation where Wynne wasn't actually supposed to be there. But Sabrina surprise invited him to this gathering because she is announcing that she and Parth are getting married. Because Sabrina and Parth are just talking up all of this stuff about how it was Harriet and Wynne that inspired them to get together and showed them that friends to lovers could work, Harriet and Wynne feel it is impossible to tell their friends that they are no longer together, and so they decide to pretend to still be engaged for the entire week. So you may be asking, why did Harriet and Wynne break up? Well, after moving from Vermont, where they were all in undergrad, to New York, where they also lived together, while Harriet was doing her first residency, she then got another one in San Francisco. So she brought Wynne across the country. He normally lives in Montana, and Wynne was really kind of directionless. He didn't have the high-powered, what he felt, intellect and drive that Harriet had. So he was just kind of following her and trying to make his life kind of up as it went along. He only barely graduated with a business degree, and medical residencies are really, really hard. And that was putting a huge strain on their relationship, both of those things. And then a couple of things. Wynne's father died. And so they kept pushing back the wedding and pushing back and pushing back. And then rather soon after that, Wynne's mom, Gloria, announced that she had Parkinson's. And Wynne decided to move home to Montana for what was supposed to be a temporary break to go care for her while one of his sisters could finish up the degree she was working on and then move back home permanently. That temporary long distance relationship became permanent when they just realized their lives were just not working together anymore. So the book gets its name from the way that the chapters are structured. This is a single POV romance. We only get Harriet's side of the story. We do not get Wynn's. However, there are flashbacks as well. So the chapter headings say like happy place or real life, and the happy place titles chapters are all these flashbacks to when Wynn and Harriet and their friends were all really happy and in the undergrad and like living together and everything was great and wonderful, and in that like, you know, late teens, early 20s time when, you know, the world is just an open book and they can do whatever they want, right? And they were all together. And then real life is the present day chapters where things are not great. It is very clear that in every single one of the couples, there's an issue. Intra-couple, there are issues, and everyone is refusing to acknowledge them and just try to relive basically their glory days at this cabin in Maine. So if you think that that sounded complicated, I haven't even gotten into the half of it, to be honest. This is such a complex character book where, like I said, everyone has something going on. So if you know anything about what I value in my romance novels, it is that. And it's so complicated with the characters to the point where I actually kind of forgot it was single POV. Not that it's like there's like slippage in the narrative, but just that there's no like super hyper focus on Harriet, right? So it's not like we get her vision, we get her lens, and we get her problems, and then everyone else is kind of periphery. She is very engaged in seeing all of these issues play out because she is very conflict avoidant. So she is watching all of these issues crop up and she's like, okay, I gotta fix this, and I gotta fix this, and I have to pretend to be in love with Wynn, and I still am in love with Wynn, but all of these things happened and it's terrible and I'm sad and I love my friends, but my friends are sad. And so it's so complicated, and I fell in love with every single one of these characters. This book had no right to make me laugh as much as it made me like want to tear up. I would say, like, I describe Book Lovers as kind of like a warm hug, and there was some emotional stuff in Book Lovers. I'm not going to say there wasn't, but there is a lot more emotional weight in this particular book. There are serious things going on, either within the group or like, you know, with people who are kind of outside of the group, family members and stuff like that. And so as hilarious as it is, because Emily Henry just has a way of writing that just makes me laugh, which is not always the easiest thing to do. But there is also heavy topics. Like I said, I already mentioned there's death of a parent, there's a parent getting a disease, there's a lot of discussion about divorce and what makes a quote unquote happy family, you know, how you maintain adult friendships, depression, the medicated kind, not just like I have depression but it was fixed by love, which is sometimes how like mental health issues are dealt with in romance novels, and I don't like that at all. That's not what happens here. Thank you. I think the glue of this book for me is, well, there were two things, and the like bigger group thing was that you kind of feel from all of the people, these 6 people, that there is some sort of like very, they're attempting to hide their desperation for how much they want to have their friendship be like it always was. But it can't be anymore because they all live in different places. Some of them are at different places in their lives. And it's just not gonna work the same way it did when they were all undergrads living together at a tiny college in Vermont. And you get that from all of them in distinct ways, some more than others depending on who Harriet is focusing on, but that was just, as someone who is also like a late 20-something person, like adult friendships are really hard and people change, and you get nostalgic and sad maybe for the way things used to be if these friends you've had for a long time and you used to live closer together or stuff like that. And so there's just like a pervasive like desperation and like a clinging to that was just really well done. And the second thing is very similar, just like the utter confusion between Wynn and Harriet, who know that they love each other, but also know that their relationship had not been working. And they're just kind of like super desperate and stressed and sad to understand that, to understand how you can still love someone and also recognize that the relationship as of 3 months ago, it wasn't working, and they were both in a really dark place and they weren't giving the other person what they needed. And that was also really, really well done, coupled with Harriet in particular needing to learn how to be more of herself. Her parents, you know, they didn't have a loving marriage. She feels they gave up everything to allow her to thrive academically. And she thinks that her intense, like being a doctor, being a brain surgeon, which is actually the kind of doctor she's trying to become, is less about her and more of giving her parents what she thinks they deserve after everything they gave up for her. And that's why she's really conflict avoidant. She doesn't want to fight. You know, she just wants to have basically other people tell her what to do and just like find the smoothest possible path so that everyone is happy, even at the expense of herself, which is the irony in the title, Happy Place. I was a little sad that because of the single POV, we don't get to see the personal journey that Wynn has also been on and is on. A lot of his, you realize later, happened like prior to the book starting, and then he kind of has to explain it to Harriet, and that's kind of sad because I'm a huge fan of watching couples like grow together, both like growing together as a pair but also growing together as individual people. And so I'm never going to be thrilled by a single POV romance. I love a dual, but again, it was just well written. So I have not read Emily Henry's two other books, Beach Read and People You Meet on Vacation, so I can't speak to those. I do plan to, but life has been really hard lately. So I've just read Book Lovers and I've read Happy Place, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend both of them. They're both basically 5-star reads for me. Book Lovers I gave 5, and then on Storygraph, Happy Place I gave 4.75, just because I felt like in the end there was a lot of like long, like emotional speeches that kind of there were so many of them because there were so many interpersonal relationship things to resolve. I was like, okay, all right, okay, I'm done. But I just couldn't feel like I could give it the full 5 stars, and Storygraph doesn't make me. But anyway, if you are looking for a romance novel that is more of a comfort read, a sweet read, that does have some emotional stuff going on, but isn't like gonna make you boo-hoo, then I would take Book Lovers. If you are really interested in a really interesting, emotional, like, especially if you're like late 20s, early 30s, I feel like there's a lot in this that is just right in the chest. That is also a very beautiful love story. Then Happy Place is definitely going to be great for you. I mean, if you like books in the same way I do, taste is an individual thing. I always feel like when I make these reviews, if I read a romance novel and there's way more like high emotional content than I was expecting, it's really important for me to tell you guys, because sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth for that. And I just got really lucky that I was totally ready, willing, and able to both laugh and tear up alongside this book. So this has already gone on too long, but this is an ARC review, so thank you to Edelweiss and the publisher for giving me a free advanced review copy for a honest review. It comes out in a couple of weeks as of taping, so depending on when you watch this, if you watch it right after I post it, it may not be available quite yet from your local library or your local bookstore, but you should be able to put it on pre-order if you would like to. And if you have the Libby app from your local library, if that's something that they use, they often put very popular titles under there in like a coming soon section. So even though it's not out yet, you can get in the waitlist line. So you can do that on physical books as well. So if that's something that you need to do, go do it and be free if it's available at your local library. And I'm just so happy that this book, happy, pun intended, maybe. I'm just so thrilled that this book lived up to just how emotionally invested I was in Book Lovers, because there's just no feeling like a book that hits it out of the park being followed by another book that hits it out of the park. And it's just really special to me. So thanks again to the publisher and Edelweiss. And I'm just gonna go, like, I don't know, hug my phone so that I can hug this book some more. No, I have to go do homework. That's less fun. Until next time, guys. Bye.